Hi everybody, and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Relationships, and it's by user Something About a Plant. Me, 30 female, with my boyfriend, 25 male, of 1.5 years. I asked him to consider getting a job, and now I feel like a demon. Hi guys, would love some advice on how to handle this because I'm just at my wit's end with this. I'm currently living with my boyfriend and his dad in his dad's apartment. Long story short, had my own apartment. Some co-workers convinced me to move into their house and split the rent when my lease ended. Then all of a sudden, they're selling the house and I have to skedaddle. So, my boyfriend and his dad are majorly helping me out by letting me stay here, and I appreciate every bit of it. It's only temporary, less than 90 days, and just enough to let me save up for a few months of rent and deposit. Anyway, I'm planning everything and looking at places and trying to do the math, and it's a little bit stressful because it's just going to be the two of us surviving on my single income. I do alright for myself, 25 to 30,000 flat rate and usually closer to 35 and 40,000 with raises. Some parts of my position have sales type bonus incentives that are performance based and not guaranteed. My boyfriend has never worked and always lived with his parents since high school. At the moment, he stays home and smokes a large amount of weed, plays video games and looks at hentai all day. I work full-time with 9-hour days during the week and I also work 6 hours on Saturdays. He doesn't really clean or anything, so I'll usually come home from work and start dinner and clean some things before I join him for a dungeon or two in Warcraft. Today, I was really crunching some numbers at work and sent him a message asking if there's any way he'd consider working to contribute. Like, if there's maybe a part-time job at a pet store. He loves animals. Or if I could pay to put him through some college courses to help find a career he'd enjoy. He got pretty upset that I asked, and I tried to assure him that I was sorry and just feeling a little alone in all of this. I then got a few messages from him explaining that he's offended I asked him to get a job, but he knows I didn't mean it as an insult, so he's sucking it up, huh? And then he proceeded to explain that he's not unemployed because he's lazy, he's unemployed because he's totally opposed to the concept on many levels. And he went on to explain that he's not mad at me though. He told me that he'd rather actually die than be employed, and he said it's due to how much of your time it takes, how it's only necessary due to the status quo of capitalism, etc. I kind of lost my cool and asked him, isn't saying all that kind of hypocritical when you're just intending to live off of everyone else that does it? And then he got pretty pissed. He told me that I effectively called him a hypocrite for not killing himself. I guess because it's related to the whole he'd rather die thing? I still can't connect that, but maybe my brain is wonky? Anyways, I guess I just realized that if I were anyone else reading this, I'd had given into the "what the F are you doing, this is stupid" idea by now. So if you've made it this far, I appreciate it. All aspects of the relationship are great except for this. But I guess it's a pretty large portion, and it's pretty much me saying, man, this house is fully furnished and the curtains are beautiful, but the whole place is on fire, so that kinda sucks. So, I guess, are there any suggestions for how to make him see that this is going to end us? Because I'm honestly feeling pretty selfish right now, and in his head, I think I'm attacking him, and I don't want to be. Sorry if this is disjointed as hell, it's been a long work day. OP, in some cases, you just need to take the hint and run as far away as possible. You are absolutely right, this guy is a hypocrite. He is a freeloading parasite hypocrite. All that speech about being anti-system and unemployed by choice because blah blah blah, all that crap goes out the window the moment he takes daddy's money to watch TV and pay for his video games. Now, I would buy his whole speech if this was a person that was living in a self-sustained farm where he's running on a treadmill to light up a bulb and growing his own food, but he's not. So seriously OP, if I were you, I'd dump him. The thing is, to me there are 3 things that sustain love: admiration, trust, and chemistry. And in this case, there is nothing to admire from this type of attitude. And what about you guys? What would you do if you were in OP's shoes, or what would you say to OP? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Allison Rages says, I'm going to be blunt and say this in the most caring, helpful way possible. Wake the F up! You are 30 years old and you still want to be with this man? Listen to yourself. He won't get a job, but is fine watching hentai, playing video games paid for by other people, and buying weed with other people's money? You need to find a mature, grown-ass adult man or woman, whatever your orientation is, I don't know if you're bi or straight, and live life. I don't know how you've been with him for almost 2 years. Just effing dump him. He's nobody and he's making excuses for his laziness. That is what your life is going to be if you two lived together, playing World of Warcraft while you're trying to make do with what you have. Bull effing crap. Constance Blackwood 12 says, being unemployed doesn't necessarily mean he's lazy. The fact that he sits around all day and doesn't do housework or volunteer or even engage in some kind of creative, intellectually stimulating or productive hobby, maybe gardening, knitting, programming Lego robots or studying anarchist philosophy, that means he's lazy. Probably a good question to ask him would be, how would you feel if I stopped working? And also, why is it okay for me to suffer and have no free time in order to financially support us when it's not okay for you to do so? How can I communicate everything to him in a way that doesn't seem like I'm attacking him? I mean, I think this is going to end your relationship. He values not working over you not being stressed, and you can't make him change his values. If you want to try talking to him, you could try focusing on yourself. You're doing all the work, both as a breadwinner and as a homemaker. That's exhausting and scary. You need a partner who doesn't make you do all the work so you can actually enjoy your life as well. Or you can put it in cold financial terms. Look, I've been running the numbers and when I move out, I can't support both of us. Get a job or continue living with your dad and relying on him for money. Deleted says, I'm sorry, I actually laughed out loud when I read his reasons for not getting a job. He's opposed to the concept of working for a living, but he's totally happy to leech off of his dad and you, who both work for a living. So essentially, he is okay with working for a living as long as someone else is working and he is living. Why does his dad even put up with this? Why do you put up with this? This dude is a lazy, self-absorbed loser. You are not selfish. You did not attack him. You asked him to be an adult. Now you know he is fully prepared to leech off of other people his entire life. Never be responsible and never grow up. Oh man, please tell me this is a troll post and no one is this blind to someone's laziness. If you honestly feel guilty because of what he said, then he's gaslighting you. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was some psychological abuse going on to get you to the point where you even consider you are in the wrong here. Well, no surprise there. So now let's move on to the update that was 2 months after the original post. So, I brought up a lot of the points that you guys brought up in the last thread, including how would you feel if I stopped working? And I actually threw out an ultimatum of, if you had to choose between getting a job and being with me, which would it be? I wish I could tell you I took the calm, rational, mature route and just walked out to a new life. I decided to have a tiny bit of fun instead. I've got a decent amount of money saved up since his dad didn't charge me rent, and that was the entire purpose of me staying here. Please note, I prefer to carry my own weight and still contributed as far as preparing meals, buying food, and drinks. So, I put my notice at my previous job without informing my boyfriend. Once the notice period was up, I started staying home every day. Wake up in the morning and he says, "Don't you have work today?" And I'd be like, I don't feel like it. The first few days he was like, awesome! And we sat around playing games. After the first week, he starts getting a little anxious and he's like, "So, what's up with work?" And I tell him, just don't feel like it. After the second week, he says, "What's going on?" And I tell him that I thought a lot about what he said and I really agree with him. I don't feel like working and contributing to the machine either. So I'll just stay here with him. He flipped out. He started telling me how irresponsible that is, how I have to work. Basically, the entire diatribe that I should have been screaming at this kid the entire time we were together. Except at me, because I didn't go to work for 2 weeks. I kind of figured that would happen, and I wanted something drastic to point out to him that as I said before, he is a hypocrite. Because he is. I have to admit, a small part of me was kind of hoping this would be a revelation to him and help him change. No, he just couldn't fathom how I could possibly do something so ridiculous and blah blah blah. Anyway, what I actually did after leaving my job was find a part-time job and go down to the local community college to pull the trigger on something I've wanted to do for a couple of years now, enroll in a welding program. I also found a roommate in the area who's cool with my animals, and that way I can split my bills up and not be strapped for cash. Plus, I sometimes drive for Uber and this is an okay market with a decent bar scene on weekends. So, if I need a little extra, there's that. So, I've moved out and moved on. And you know, I'm not even that sad because I got closure out of that whole event. I'm also pursuing the cliche of hitting the gym more, or at all, and hoping to lose a little weight. Though I did just lose 180 useless pounds, so maybe that's enough for now. Anyway, I know I didn't go about it the right way, but I thought if any of you were curious to know, here's how it went. Thanks, Reddit. OP's edit. Wow, this exploded. And you're all very kind and amazing. Lots of people PMing me and commenting about his actual reaction, but to be honest, I feel like I'd have to be a trained therapist to even figure it out. After he flipped out at me and I pointed out that it was really just a what's good for the goose scenario, he got kind of quiet and said I was being mean. I told him that it had become pretty obvious that trying to talk to him about everything wasn't doing me much good, so I had decided to actively show him. He told me that it doesn't change anything about the way he feels about not working. I told him that he's got to find some way to contribute or I walk. He told me it would be my decision, so it was. Basically, to this day, he still believes he's right, or at the very least, he hasn't done anything wrong. There's some sort of disconnect in his brain, where he can't connect the part of him that loves me and wants to take care of me with the part of him that doesn't want to work and wants to live off his parents forever. It's pretty sad, really. Additional information from OP's comments. We spoke, together, with his parents and with a therapist. Anytime anyone brought up the subject of contributing in any way, the answer was flat out no. He is a spoiled child and readily admits it, and in no way wishes to improve. His intentions are to live off of his dad comfortably for as long as he can. I brought up several times and we discussed several times that my funds could not cover everything for both of us. We discussed that this would mean giving up internet or video games or you name it. His solution was always that he could just stay with his dad without me. That right there, the idea that he could just live without me but I didn't feel like I could live without him, I think that's what opened my eyes to the one-sided aspect of the relationship. And when I brought it up to him that I was interpreting it that way and it was hurtful, well yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, but that's how I meant it. If it were a you and me against the world situation, I'd be able to stick it out. But if what I'm doing is considered selfish and earns me that label, so be it, I guess. But keep in mind, this wasn't just a bad spell in his life. This is how it has always been. This is how he intends for it to be always. Again, call it incompatibility, but that's not for me. I have all the respect in the world for people who aren't working, who are maybe in dire straits, but are actively trying to better themselves or even reaching out for help. I was even cool with his whole situation for the longest time because I figured, stay-at-home boyfriend or husband, why not? Maybe he can help around the apartment or maybe he wants to be a stay-at-home dad. Except he didn't. One of the last straws was probably when he refused to come with me to the store but wanted me to buy him stuff. Like, what? Get your own chocolate milk. Oh wait, you can't. Well done OP in all accounts, dropping off the dead weight, and now you're doing something that you've actually wanted to do for a long time, so hopefully welding school is awesome. Enjoy it and all the best, thank you for sharing. Now, let's move on to the next post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance and it's by user Crane. As per my NDA, I'm not allowed to discuss this position with former employers. Since my firing is effective immediately, you are now a former employer. Gather round as I tell you the story of the time I got fired at the worst place I have ever worked. From day one, it was a nightmare. There was zero onboarding or training. I was simply given the login info for a couple of different websites and told to get to work. This company planned large conferences and I was in charge of speaker coordination. I was the only person in this role. The information solely resided with me. Not a big deal, I say to myself. I'm good at thinking on my feet. I'll just ask questions when I need clarification on something. That turned out to be impossible. My manager's first language wasn't English. I'm all for learning new languages. I think it's a great skill to have and it takes a lot of work, and being able to speak multiple languages is impressive. The problem was that her English was so poor that it was often very hard to understand what she was trying to say. I once asked if she had time to hop on a call and explain something to me, and she responded with, "No OP, sales skills is a must. I'm a bird without head." It took me a few days to figure out that she was trying to say that things were hectic. She was running around like a chicken with its head cut off, and she needed me to be self-sufficient. Regardless, I did my best in the position. Small mistakes happened here and there, but overall, all the speakers were very happy and felt well supported. I struggled with communication with my manager, but I thought the company was happy with my work. Until 4 months in, when I was randomly pulled into a meeting with my manager, HR, and legal. Effective immediately, I was fired. I asked why I was being fired and why this was the first I had heard of any problems. Why wasn't there a write-up or a verbal warning? My manager said it was because the 10 minutes I ran the analytics it takes me to respond to an email was too slow. That was a BS reason and we all knew it. If you don't like me personally, fine, but don't try and make this seem like I was a bad employee. To be honest, I was furious. We do the exit interview with HR and then she asks me to send over any documents I had, we worked on personal computers remotely, and describe where I was at in regards to our next event and our speakers. NDAs are really common in this field. I've signed one at every job I've ever worked. But this employer's NDA had a clause in it that worked to my advantage. I said, as per my NDA, I am not to discuss intimate details or share documents relating to this position with any employer, past or future. Since this firing was effective immediately, you are now a former employer and I am bound by my NDA. HR hemmed and hawed a little bit, telling me that of course I could speak to them about it. This was about their event. I pulled out my copy of the NDA, always save contracts, and pointed out the exact clause and said that it clearly stated that if I violated this NDA, I would be sued. So no, I couldn't talk to them about the position. HR turned to legal, and legal pointed out that I was technically correct. They were a former employer and I was bound by my NDA. They fired me 17 days before the event. They didn't have time to start over from scratch. I still keep in contact with some of my coworkers and apparently the event was a crap show and the manager nearly lost her job because of it. Over half the speakers pulled out once communication broke down, all because I take too long to respond to emails. Such a satisfying malicious compliance, OP. Thank you so much for sharing. And it's that time that we've reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories. I really did enjoy reading them to you. So if you did, then don't be shy and go ahead and give the video a like. And don't forget to subscribe or even share this video with people that you might think will enjoy my storytelling. Also, if you have the time, go down to the video description and check out all the links I have for you, from our Discord community to my channel merch. And finally, I'd like to say thank you for watching. It really means a lot to me that you enjoy my videos. And having said all that, I'll see you guys in the next video.